is one of these moments where you can say that history pivots on a single incident.
Roswell is the granddaddy of all UFO cases.
We've been able to explain them as hoaxes.
In the mind of the government, it's case closed. But when you've got a secret as big as Roswell, the secret doesn't stay a secret forever.
What were you doing in Roswell, New Mexico in July of 1947?
Everyone wants to know what happened in Roswell.
He knew the military were perpetrating a lie.
Now that we have this AI, we can find out what really happened.
Knowing that these certain people are telling the truth, the implications are vast.
I know it happened. I know it was real. The threats were real.
That's a bombshell confession. This will change everything we think we know about our place in the universe.
It's time we all start listening.
We could have another Roswell tomorrow.
This is the great secret they don't want us to know. And now we know.
Hey, Jeff, I like your background there.
Oh, thanks, Ben. Greetings from Las Vegas. How are you this morning?
Good. How are you doing? You getting the heat wave?
Oh yeah, I'm a native. I'm used to it. But yeah, it's just early. That's the only surprising thing. Usually it's August, September. We've been having it in May and June, so it's crazy. What do you expect from the state that has, Area 51 and Rachel Highway and the Alien Highway and
That's right. You guys got it all there. And now you've got triple digits like 90% of the time in your temperature.
Yeah, so the aliens from Venus are used to it by now, I'm sure.
That's right. That's right.
Well, your new series, Roswell, The Final Verdict on Discovery Plus, Roswell is the king of alien cases. It all begins there, the modern alien story. Can you give us a quick background for some people who don't know what Roswell is?
Sure. It's kind of hard to find someone who hasn't heard of Roswell being, like a household name now, but you're exactly right. A lot of people don't know really anything of the events that took place. And so this series, it takes you through a timeline that's very thorough. Anyone who's interested in it, it began in 1947, July. There was a huge UFO we call FLAP. It happened in the Southwest. Nevada even had some stuff going on in Arizona. And during the midst of all this, a rancher named Mac Brazel, just outside of Roswell, finds some debris. And he thinks it's unusual, takes some of it, kind of plays around with it. It has some very unusual properties to where he thinks that he should report this to the local Army Air Force base. And from there, the public relations officers get involved. They send out men to come examine it. And very quickly on July 8th, the Army Air Force, which the Air Force wasn't around yet, declares that they have captured a flying disc. So this makes world headline news. It starts to, they ship parts of this back to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio. And within a couple of hours, they've released another press release that it's a weather balloon. So this is an example of the government probably reversing their decision on the explanation at least 4, maybe 5 times officially, right? And so it's kind of like, well, if it wasn't there in the first place, why do you have to keep changing your mind? And the government says, well, if you don't believe it this time, we'll come up with something else. They literally said that. So our series uses a new angle, which is artificial intelligence. And as you can imagine, most of these people are dead. Unfortunately, the witnesses have gone. And if you really want to peel back the layers of what happened, it's not like you can call them into court. And this is what this software does. And it takes a look at things very accurately, is able to ascertain even better than a polygraph in most cases. That's what got me excited about it.
And, the Pentagon lately has been in the news declassifying documents and, with UFOs and them admitting to something, there's still double talk, in my opinion. Where does that leave Roswell? Is there any new insight from the government because of all this recent UFO activity?
I think we have to have patience with the government because in that DNI report, they didn't go back and do a historical review, not at all. There was nothing in there that said, hey, going back to the 40s or whatever, we were involved in this, nothing. And so the scope needs to be expanded. I would like to see hearings in Congress. What we do know is that they finally admitted they're still in the UFO business. They're still researching it, which they've denied for many, many years. And secondly, The admission that they can't explain these things. Of the small sample, of cases, 144, only one of them they could find an explanation for, and these are just government, sightings. They're not Bob and Jane down the street. They're not the hundreds of thousands of people who've seen things. So if we're looking at just their cases, they're telling us it's not foreign. They're telling us it's not our own secret programs. Then that itself merits, I think, further investigation.
I'm kind of along the same opinion as Neil deGrasse Tyson. It's like these recent videos they show are the worst quality you could ever think of. It's like 2021. It's like you don't think these $500 million jets would have some sort of clarity. They just, what do you think? There's not such really great, clear evidence of something like that.
Well, you have a couple things going on here. I think we watch too much TV and movies to where we think that you're supposed to have, technology evidencing for us. We call that the CSI effect. And so we have this really high expectation they're going to have crystal clear images. But what's happening here is you do have multi-million-dollar systems that aren't supposed to be, color and, everything like that. They're sensing thermal, they're sensing speed and direction. And so when you get a grainy image like that, if you're not technically minded and flying that, jet chasing it, you wouldn't know how important it is. But I think the information's there, and it's corroborated by radar. It's corroborated by other sensors, they said, even satellites. So it's not just the one piece of video. You put everything together that a lot of the skeptics dismiss, that you have multi-sensors. 80 of the cases had multi-sensors looking at this and saying, it's not a hallucination. It's not, a blimp. It's not anything like that, because we found it going, 0 to 60 miles in 1 second, or pulling G forces up to 700 times, or 13,000 miles an hour. I mean, that is not disputed.
And do you think those pilots had to get permission from the government before going on record? Because I would think, if so many pilots are now coming out saying we've seen these things all the time for years, that the military would not want them stirring it up like that.
And that's a very valid point, because there actually was a directive from the Air Force in the 60s, I believe, where they said that no government personnel could speak about UFOs without permission. And so when you had, for example, what we call the Tic Tac video from the Navy, that video was actually leaked onto the internet, is how it first came out. It took a while for us to get the Pentagon to admit it was actually legitimate and it was one of theirs. So the DNI report, it talks about how aviators were ridiculed. I've talked to people who were told that they were crazy and not to talk about this, not to do anything. So it's been this culture of, shut up. You're going to possibly lose, advancements and everything in your career if you talk about it. And it's only now that I think they're allowing people and encouraging them to come out with their reports.
And how, as a federal special agent, have you used those skills in your investigations?
I can say I didn't investigate anything like this, but what I did do was interview thousands of victims and perpetrators, and kind of my side hobby was deception detection, right? And so when anything new comes out and they have some technology that can perhaps help us sift through who's telling the truth or not, and do it better than I can, face to face, because my wife says I'm horrible at it. I'm all for it, and I want that technology.
Well, I assume you grew up watching and obsessed with the X-Files as I was.
I did, and in fact, Chris Carter even weighed in on this, on New York Times, and he got in there and was talking about how he's a little disappointed, but he kind of plays both sides of the fence and says, well, this is a true X-Files. In essence, we truly, if there are secret keepers, they're not going to just let go of this easily, right? And so sometimes truth is stranger than fiction. But yeah, it was an instigator for me to get in there and not necessarily find the X-Files, but to know what does government know.
Absolutely. And I'm telling you, Ben, Roswell is on my bucket list. I want to visit the crash site. I want to visit Roswell, New Mexico. I understand it's also a tourist thing, right? So people make pilgrimages to Roswell to find out what was going on.
They do, and we're still active there. We were at the main debris field for quite a while. It's been taken over by private owners now that don't want anything to do with us, unfortunately. But there are other fields that we're investigating and still hoping, for that piece of physical evidence that has unique properties. We could say, look, we have it. So a lot of time is spent there, and a lot of people are still trying to follow leads, but it is kind of the pilgrimage to get to Roswell. It's pretty cool.
Well, Ben, Roswell, The Final Verdict, streaming on Discovery Plus on June 2nd. Thank you for joining me today. Come visit us in Las Vegas. We'll go out to the extraterrestrial highway and check out the Independence Day monument they put out there.
I would like to see that. I don't know that I want to go back to Area 51 anymore, though. It's
don't do that. It's too dangerous. But we'll go to Rachel, Nevada. We'll go to the Alien. We'll have a drink. All right.
That's right. Thanks so much.